If you've been scrolling through endless espresso machine listings hoping to find something that actually fits into your kitchen routine, reliable enough to survive daily use, simple enough that you don't need a barista degree, and priced so you feel you're getting a fair deal, you're not alone. The biggest worry most of us have is ending up with a glossy piece of equipment that looks great on a countertop but ends up gathering dust because it's either too finicky or just not worth the price tag. I've spent the last few weeks digging through forums, watching unboxing videos, and reading the handful of reviews that do exist for this particular model, trying to separate the hype from the reality. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about who this machine actually makes sense for. If you're someone who drinks a shot of espresso every morning, maybe a latte after lunch, and you enjoy tweaking grind size or tamp pressure just enough to get a decent crema, this single-group, stainless steel unit could be a good match. It's also a decent fit for a small office kitchen where a single workstation is enough and you don't want to crowd the countertop with a multi-group beast. On the flip side, if you're after a high-volume setup for a CAF, or you just want a plug-and-play machine that produces CAF-grade drinks without any learning curve, you'll probably be better off looking elsewhere. The design leans heavily toward the enthusiast who wants a little control, but not the level of a full-blown commercial machine. Now, let's break down the practical strengths. The first thing you'll notice when you unpack it is the matte stainless steel body paired with wooden accents. Those wood panels aren't just for show, they actually help keep the machine from getting the cold metal feel that can be off-putting in a kitchen where you're constantly reaching for the handle. The metal frame feels solid, there's a reassuring heft when you lift it, which usually translates to durability over the long run. The dual pressure gauges are another highlight. Most entry-level machines only give you a single gauge that shows the pump pressure during extraction. With two gauges, you can monitor both brew pressure and steam pressure separately, which is handy when you're trying to dial in a consistent shot and a silky microfoam at the same time. In practice, that means you can see when the brew pressure dips below the ideal 9-bar range, adjust your tamp or grind, and avoid under-extracted coffee that tastes sour. Another real-world win is the included steam wand. A lot of budget units either skip the wand or make it an add-on, forcing you to buy a separate frother. Here, the wand is integrated, and the flow is strong enough to texture milk for latte art after a few minutes of practice. I tested it with both whole milk and a plant-based oat milk, and the wand produced a fine, velvety foam that held its shape for a latte-like pour-over. That's a small but satisfying detail for anyone who enjoys a homemade cappuccino without pulling an extra piece of equipment from a drawer. The machine also scores in terms of daily usability. The control panel is straightforward, just a few knobs and a switch for power, brew, and steam. There's no confusing digital display or Wi-Fi connectivity that needs constant updates. For someone who wants to fire up the machine, let it heat up, and start pulling a shot in under a minute, that simplicity is a breath of fresh air. The heating time is about 4 to 5 minutes, which is comparable to other machines in this price bracket. Once it's warmed up, the boiler holds temperature well enough that you can pull multiple shots in a row without noticeable temperature swing. However, the machine isn't without its hidden trade-offs. One thing that trips up new owners is the lack of an automatic drip tray. The drip tray you get is a shallow metal pan that you have to empty after each use. If you're making several drinks back-to-back, you'll find yourself cleaning up more often than you'd like. It's not a deal-breaker, but it does add a small maintenance step that a lot of people overlook until they've already bought the machine. Another practical weakness is the steam wand's positioning. It's mounted on the left side of the front panel, which means you have to reach around the machine a bit to get a proper angle, especially if your espresso machine sits in a tight corner. This isn't a problem if you have a spacious countertop, but in cramped kitchens it can feel a bit awkward. Because of its single-group design, you're limited to making one shot at a time. That's fine for a solo coffee drinker, but if you're entertaining guests or trying to brew 2 drinks in quick succession, you'll find the workflow a little sluggish. The machine also doesn't have a built-in grinder, so you'll need to source a grinder separately. For many home users, that's a plus. You can choose a